Welcome to Spiritual Ambition, where we tune in to awaken our divine nature and explore the provocative inner force compelling us toward our fullest potential. If you've achieved external success but feel a deeper calling, if you're tired of dimming your light to fit in, and you know there's a more powerful way to live and lead and love, you're in the right place. Host Donna Bond is a best-selling author, modern-day high priestess, and catalyst for personal transformation. Together, we're birthing a new paradigm of loving leadership, integrating our humanity with divine wisdom as our individual awakening serves collective evolution. Here's your host of Spiritual Ambition, Donna Bond.
Hello, hello. Welcome in. Welcome back. I'm so glad to have you here today. If the only thing standing between you and your soul's destiny is your ego's fear of being outgrown, then this episode is for you. I'm so excited that you're here. This is episode number 17, and we have a very special guest today, Katie, who is going to share with us about her transformation and all that she has worked through, fear after fear after fear, so that she could step into her destiny and her soul's higher purpose. I'm Donna Bond. I'm so glad to have you here. We're going to start like we start every single show, calling in the light. Wherever you are, unless, of course, you're operating heavy machinery or driving a car, go ahead and close your eyes for just a moment. We're going to turn our attention inward as we hold the intention here for spiritual ambition to experience our divine nature. I'd like to invite you to just take a nice, deep, cleansing inhalation. Go ahead and just let that go. Infinite universe, we call ourselves forward into your loving. We ask to be cleared, filled, surrounded, and protected with the clear white light of living love. We ask that any karma, negativity, imbalance, any distress, discomfort, dis-ease, any misalignment, misidentification, misunderstanding, any energy or vibrational frequency that is vibrating at anything less than the frequency of divine loving that may be residing anywhere in our consciousness, whether you're here live with us today or you're watching the recording, we ask that anything with a resonant frequency less than divine loving be lifted and transmuted at this time, taken to the highest realms of light and sound, and dispersed back into the nothingness. Into this space, we recognize grace and peace and light and love and courage, aliveness, ecstatic nature of our being. We acknowledge and we welcome only those divine beings of light who love each one of us unconditionally, who work for the divine plan and who work for the light. We welcome only you into our sacred space here today. We ask for your support and assistance in bringing forward healing, revelation, and wisdom of the heart forward for everyone here taking place in this process. We are so grateful for this and more. We say thank you, and so be it. Just touching into that beautiful peacefulness, that energy of calm and stillness that lives below the surface, that exists in every now present moment, under the activity of the mind and the doing and the going and the pushing and the striving. Just drinking it in, and noticing how your nervous system loves that peace. Noticing that your nervous system recognizes that peace and that safety, that calm, that groundedness, that anchoring. And as we allow ourselves to tap into that, we transmute any fear. We alchemize any nervousness, any anxiety, any trepidation, any withholding, any clutching or gripping, any fear. And fear is created by our mind, by our ego. And, there's three kinds of fear. There's primal fear, there's rational fear, and there's irrational fear. And primal fear is like if you're getting chased by a tiger, like it's real, you're afraid. Rational fear is like you lose your kid in a crowd, and that is a real fear, right? Because it's something that's actually happening in the moment. But irrational fear is what I like to call dreaming up a drama. And when we're dreaming up a drama, we are, Brene Brown calls it negative future fantasy. We are conjuring up some terrible thing that's going to happen. And we do this in our mind. And this is quite literally how we talk ourselves out of our dreams. It's how we sabotage the dreams of our heart. And so today we have a very special guest, someone who I love and adore, who I have had the privilege and honor of supporting for many years now. Katie and I met in Sedona, Arizona. I think it was 2021. And Katie attended the revitalization retreat that I was facilitating there in Sedona. And we'll ask Katie to share a little bit about the fear that she had to work through in order to even get herself to that retreat. But since then, Katie has moved herself through fear after fear after fear in courageous pursuit of her dreams. And this is really available to you, to the people you love, to your family, to your friends. We are each here to make a sacred contribution to this life. You're a puzzle piece that matters. Your contribution matters. Your energy matters. Your thoughts matter. Your expression matters. You are a part of the whole. And you're bringing forward your heart's desire is part of the fulfillment of the whole. It's part of your own personal fulfillment, and it's part of the fulfillment of the whole. And so when we allow fear to paralyze us and destabilize us and talk us out of the contribution that we are here to make, it's really a disservice. It's a disservice not only to ourselves, but to the world and to what it is we are all here to do and to contribute. We're going to bring Katie on in just a moment. But before that, we're going to send light. As we always do on every episode of Spiritual Ambition, we have our sacred circle of light. And this is where we intentionally come together and we send love and light and upliftment around the globe to whoever might need it. And so straight away, I am sending the light to my parents because I just received a text message from my mother that my stepdad has taken a fall and he's in the hospital and he's fractured a couple of ribs and it looks like he's going to be in the hospital for a couple of days. So Betty and Bob, we are absolutely sending the light out to you. Also, there have been submissions for light to be sent to Don and Celia, to David. We're going to send the light out to Katie and Kelly. And if there is anyone that you're holding in your heart that you know needs upliftment, we're going to send love and light around the world to anyone who might be in struggle right now, to anyone who is experiencing real fear, anyone who might be in a war zone, anyone who is suffering through loss or devastation. If you have the name of a loved one or a friend or even a neighbor, somebody who you don't know, but you know that they're in struggle, you can submit their name here to the show by visiting spiritualambitionsacredlight.com, and you can submit their name and we will include them in our beautiful sacred circle. So we just take that moment now in silence and we send the light. Thank you so much. Thank you for your intentions, because our collective intention around this makes a difference. It makes a difference. You make a difference. All right. Well, without further ado, I want to welcome Katie to the stage, and we are going to talk with Katie about how she has transcended fear again and again in her journey. Welcome, Katie.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you, Donna?
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you. I'm so excited. Thanks for inviting me on today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you with me. Well, Katie, our journey started back in 2021 in Sedona, Arizona, and I know you have shared with me, but if you would share with our viewers sort of how your journey of transformation got started, working through the fear that you had to just get yourself to that retreat in Sedona.
Yeah. I was someone that had never traveled alone either. So the thought of going across the country, I'm based in Pennsylvania, that in and of itself was, a bit scary. But yeah, at the time I, felt like I was in a real rut with mostly like my professional life and feeling like I just really wasn't fulfilled. And I remember I had one day at the office where I was just really frustrated and I thought like, there has to be something more. I felt like, Katie, are you going to keep doing this when like there's something out there that could like light up your soul? So coincidentally, I had seen something on Instagram of someone that I had followed had gone on a retreat. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never thought of doing that. And I immediately had this like kind of inner voice being like, you need to go out to Arizona. And it didn't make any sense, but it was like, that's where like you need to go do this retreat. So I was like, okay. So I did a little research and I had seen some different ones and nothing really seemed in alignment. And then yours popped up and I was like, yes, it was talking a lot about fear and courage. And that's right where I was. I knew that I wanted to make a change and I wanted to like be living a life that was just more in alignment with like what I want to experience in the world. And yeah, as much as I was scared, I had this clear inner voice that was like, I'm doing it no matter what. And it was like the best decision I ever made. So.
Can you share a little bit more about those actual fears at the time? I heard you say like traveling across the country, you've never done anything like this before. So there was that, unfamiliarity. But what was underneath that, Katie? Like, what were the deeper fears that were sort of operating in you at that time? And like, take yourself back, because you have been through so many evolutions since then.
Yeah.
But thinking back to that time.
Yeah, I'm trying to like transport myself back there, and it, in some ways it feels far away, and in other ways it doesn't. But yeah, I think it was the kind of the fear of change itself. Like, what will that look like? Will I be able to actually do it? Even if I were to realize, okay, this is what I want to work on, or this is, maybe I want to start a new career, but like even realizing that, like, will I have the courage to make that jump? I think also in terms of the retreat, like just being vulnerable with strangers and really kind of opening up and, hoping that like I could get out of it what I was looking to gain from it. And then on the flip side of that, though, it's interesting. The fear of like my life staying the way it was, I was almost more afraid of that. Like I think everyone has to be to the point where they're ready. And I think at that point I was like, I need to make a change. And that fear was sort of greater than the other underlying fears.
Yes, beautiful. I love that you brought that forward, because that is such a great aha, and it's such a great contemplation for people. In Spiritual Ambition, we always want to invite everyone to kind of come with us on this journey. So it's like, what is the fear of staying the same? What are the fears of waking up 5 years from now and being in the same place that you are today, when you have that inner knowing and that inner longing? So I really love that you're bringing that forward. Here's my next question for you. And we'll share with everyone sort of the journey that you have made over the years. But now that you are a graduate student and you're pursuing this degree in counseling, are there any older parts of your personality that are still holding on to what was, that would serve you in letting go as you continue to move forward into the future?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. I think
I want to invite you into your heart on this one.
yes. I think sometimes I hold on still to like an older story that, reaching your goals is difficult and scary, and, do I have what it takes to get there? And then I sort of check in with like the current version of myself, and I kind of look at the past few years and I'm like, yeah, like I've been showing up and I've moved myself through this program, and now I'm seeing clients. And I think sometimes that older version of myself, sometimes that voice will still pop in and sort of remind me of maybe how I used to be, in terms of like maybe being stuck in more of like a stagnant place. I definitely still deal with fear, like even now, and anxiety. But from my own personal experience, I know that like all the gifts are on the other side of that. And like my goals and my dreams are so important that like I'm willing to still move through the fear and feel it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. So what is the guidance that you would give yourself and that you're going to share with our viewers today? What is the guidance that you give yourself when that fear comes up today? And knowing what you just said, that all of the gifts are on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work with yourself, Katie, to move through the fear?
Mm-hmm. I think probably first, oftentimes like the fearful voice is like a hyper vigilant part of me that's not always rational. So kind of checking in and really grounding myself and being like, okay, like, sometimes I think all of us humans, we like go to like a worst case scenario when we're stressed about something. And most often that never happens. So I think that is definitely something I do to support myself. And trying to think of what else. I think knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable at certain times, but that like you can survive and tolerate that discomfort. And I think for many years before, when I was afraid to make a change, I was like, I almost had this story I was telling myself that I wouldn't be able to tolerate it and I wouldn't be able to move through it, but you can. And the more that you do it, I think the easier and more comfortable you get doing it.
May I ask you to say that in the first person?
Yes. Yeah. As I get more comfortable, experiencing the fear and realizing I can tolerate it and move through it, like the easier it gets. And I sort of like strengthen that muscle for it.
Yeah. And what acknowledgement do you have for the part of you that has moved herself through that fear again and again?
Yeah. It's definitely a part of me that I probably could do a better job of acknowledging more often. And because I've always been someone from a young age that's been anxious and a little bit nervous. And, I'm now 33 years old and it's taken a lot of time and practice. But I think the older that you get too, or the older that I get, a lot of the fear I'm realizing is like an illusion. So I think, I think it's important though to acknowledge myself on a more regular basis to kind of recognize my growth and to kind of use that as fuel that like I can keep going and I can keep growing. And it's also just like an act of self-love to be able to be like, yeah, like I did that and I'm moving through difficult things. And that's really important, like that relationship for yourself, that unconditional positive regard for yourself.
Yes, Carl Rogers, unconditional positive. Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Remember from my school days. Yes. Katie, would you be willing to share a little bit more with us about the anxiety? I know that this has really been a struggle for you for your whole life, dealing with, this like undercurrent of anxiety that is just below the surface. And I'm wondering if you would be willing to share with us a little bit more about how you experienced that, about how you've understood working with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely the anxiety and the fear is something that I've dealt with since as far as I can remember. Like my mom sort of jokes sometimes that she remembers when I was maybe 2 or 3 that when the fireworks would go off, I would hide like under the bench. So I was always a little bit of like a sensitive person and just like kind of carrying fear around even at a young age in school. If I had a test, I would get so nervous and I would feel it physiologically too, like the heart pounding and the, pit in my stomach. And I think it was a lot of just really worrying about that worst case scenario and really experiencing it, even though it wasn't actually happening. And almost always it never would happen. So it was a pattern that I wasn't aware was really happening until I started getting into my own therapy and sort of having my counselor just sort of give me that outside perspective that, you're letting that story that you've mentioned spiral, and just really take a life of its own. But really, like, if you really look at it and check it, oftentimes it's based in like irrational fears. And then also on the other side of that, like, even if that were to happen, I feel like everything always works out too.
Mm.
or you just find a way to deal with it. So I think just as I'm getting older, more confidence in myself. But now, I mean, today when I deal with it, I really acknowledge it. And I think for like in my younger years, I would just kind of let it take hold, or I'd push it away. And now I kind of really acknowledge it and be like, okay, like this is what's going on, and really process it and really kind of check some of those lies that I'm telling myself, and also just having the trust in myself that I can handle whatever life throws at me. And then also calling on God and a higher power to like help support me too, because I don't have to be in it alone. I think for so long I felt like I really had to just white knuckle it and just push through.
Yes. Oh, I just love everything that you're sharing. And, it's so interesting. I was just going back and reviewing the chapter 9 in my book, which is The Alchemy of Fear. And I teach a whole segment on this in Empower the Authentic You. And the first step, because I give the 7 steps to what you need to do to move through your fear. And the first step is to acknowledge it. And so I love hearing you talk about this. And I think I even might have used your line about, what are the lies that I'm telling myself? But it's having enough awareness to create that time and space to say, okay, what is really going on here? What are the lies that I'm telling myself when we're into these spaces of irrationalness? Because these are connected to other fears about things that aren't even true. So
Yes.
I have a gift for everybody who is watching the show today. If you visit www.being-courageous.com, you can download the 7 steps that you need to work with to alchemize your fear, to transcend your fear into courage. So being-courageous.com, and that's a little free gift for you if you want to take that. All right, Katie, I want you to bring us to one of the moments. And, I know there's been a lot of moments since you and I met in 2021, beyond just you getting yourself to Sedona and getting yourself into that retreat and starting your journey of transformation. But can you walk us through one of the big fears that you took action on, right? And I think that this is also a really important point that I'd like to make and that I'd like you to speak to is it's the actual action that moves us through our fear. And can you share with us the nitty gritty, the details of one of the big actions that you took? And let's go back a few years, let's go back a few years to the beginning of the journey.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, because I remember when we met in 2021, at that point, I had some ideas about maybe what I wanted to do career-wise that I felt would be more fulfilling. But I wasn't entirely set on it. And I think I needed some time to, think it through. And always I think since high school, I've always been very interested in psychology. And I remember I took a psychology course, and I remember thinking, this is what I want to study in college. Once I got into that whole process, my family sort of encouraged me to maybe go to business school. That might be a more useful degree. So at that point in my life, I was like, all right, yeah, they probably know better than me. So I went through that. And, but then still psychology was always sort of in my mind. And I thought about, probably all through my 20s, maybe I should just go back to school and get a psychology degree or counseling degree. And I would love to sit with clients and just hear people's stories and help give them tools to live a happier, more productive, more meaningful life. And I remember I think it was May or June of 2023. And I'd been doing some loose research on programs, and the program that I'm now in popped up, and the deadline was coming up. And it was I was at the edge of the cliff. I need to either like I need to act now, or, you know, I'm going to miss the deadline and I might have to wait an entire school year. And yeah, it was like, in some ways it would have been easier for me to just continue living the way I had been living, doing the work that I was doing. And the thought of, it was sort of like, yeah, the unknown, like, I don't know, I might start this program and it might not be the right fit. So I had to kind of just be like, I have to take this leap in order to know, like, if this will be the right fit. I won't know unless I try. And I just felt this like strong inner pull, like, you need to just try this. You need to just do this. And I applied and I got in, and I honestly didn't think it through that much. I was like, all right, I'm just going to like jump in. And I definitely have an inner feeling that like this could be something that could be like my life's work. And I won't know until I try it. I felt like I had nothing to lose, in a sense. So, yeah.
You just said something in this share that really got my attention that I want to ask you about. You said in some ways it would just be easier if I just kept doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah, actually, it's not true, because what I was doing wasn't working for me, and I was like deeply unfulfilled. So maybe like logistically it would have been easier to just continue on and not have to apply and all that sort of stuff. But like internally, in like my mind and my soul, it actually would not have been. Yeah.
Logistically. So sometimes we let effort talk us out of our dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Does that feel true?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like even the application process itself was sort of arduous. And then, you know, having to basically go into a whole new career field and having to, you know, let my family know that like I wasn't going to be working in the family business anymore. And like all those sort of practicalities at first was like, oh, that feels like a lot. And again, what I mentioned earlier, like in my mind, I made it out to be like, oh, almost like excuses, like, oh, I have this obstacle and this obstacle and this obstacle. But then once I kind of got moving on it, I was like, okay, that wasn't so bad, you know? So I think, again, that goes back to what I was saying, that like the fear that you have around something in your mind, or at least for me, it never ends up being that scary or that painful, but your mind can really convince you of that. Yeah.
Why do you think your mind does that?
I think it's like a primal protection mechanism or something. I think like with change, and there's no guarantees. And so I think sometimes it's like easier for humans just to keep on going with their same familiar every day, because it's familiar.
Yeah. How would you rate your level of satisfaction with your life today on a scale of 1 to 10? Like 10 being the most and 1 being, you know, it sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I would want to say 10. I would say maybe a 9 right now, only because as much as I am enjoying school, it's a beast, you know, because I'm doing my classes and I'm doing my internship, and it's so wonderful, but it is by design a stressful experience. So I would say the 9 would be just accounting for like the stress of graduate school, which anyone who's done graduate school knows. But yeah, like I just feel very much like I'm in the right line of work, and I feel like, you know, okay, that, you know, career is important and everything, but it's like more than that. Like I feel like I'm living my purpose as like a human being, and I want to help others. And that is just such a fulfilling, grounding reality. And I think I felt very, I felt like years prior that I wasn't living up to my potential, and my heart and soul were not in what I was doing. And that was really painful.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you hadn't submitted your application, you thought things through and maybe would have talked yourself out of it. I love that you said that. Like you didn't really think things through. You just like went for it. Like I love that. And I actually think that that is a strategy sometimes to step us past the fear that the ego has in a way where like the ego doesn't get to have too much of a negotiation around it because we have just like tiptoed our way through and past whatever it was, you know? So I love that you said that. But my question to you is this: if you hadn't submitted that application, and we're going to talk about the things that led up to submitting the application and the fears that you had to work through in order to submit that application in a minute. But if you had never done it, where would you rate your level of satisfaction, your level of fulfillment with your life on a scale of 1 to 10?
Ooh. Probably like the number 5 just popped into my head. And I feel like, yeah, I just think, and even when you asked that question, I almost like felt that in my body, and it was like this like pit in like my stomach and this like feeling in my chest. So at the time, I think I had such a strong inner knowing that I was not where I wanted to be and where I felt like I was meant to be. And it was painful, and I would feel it physically, emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really acknowledge what you're sharing about the physicality of that discomfort and the pit in your stomach and like the tightening of your chest and the tightening of your throat. And sometimes I think we let that stall us from taking action and moving forward, right? Because we can just think about the fear, and that can contract us.
Yes.
So I just think it's really important that you brought this into the conversation, because it's having this awareness around what's also happening in our physical body, right? So we have our thoughts, and like whatever the dialogue is or whatever the lies we're telling ourselves is, you know, we have the thoughts, then we have the emotions and the feelings that get connected to those stories. But then we also have what is going on in the body.
Yes. And it can be such a, like, it can provide clues to like, sometimes if you're like, I'm not sure how I'm feeling or thinking about this, like I've gotten better at tuning into my body. And, you know, if you're waking up every morning with a pit in your stomach before you're going to your job, that could be a indicator that like something isn't in alignment. So I think, yeah, sometimes we neglect to like tune into like what's actually happening, because it can really clue us in on like what's happening.
Yeah. I know before you even got to the place of submitting your application to pursue this master's in counseling, you had to have some difficult conversations. Would you be willing to share a little bit about that and all the things? Like, I already feel the emotion around it, you know? Yeah. Can you share a little bit with us? Because I think, you know, it's so courageous of you to talk about this, because this is really what keeps so many people from really following their own heart.
Yeah. So like there's a piece of the puzzle that I haven't shared yet, that, you know, I had been working for my family's business. So, you know, it wasn't so simple as saying, you know, this type of work is not what I kind of feel called to do or feel super fulfilled by. There's that other piece of, I work with my family, I don't want to let them down. You know, they kind of had visualized that like I would be, you know, in the day-to-day the business and be working alongside of them. So it was really like this fear of, if I really honor like what I really want to do with my life, I'll be disappointing someone. And I think I remember you shared that one poem with me, and it was something like, something along the lines of like, do you have the courage to like, to not betray yourself in fear that you'll disappoint someone? And I remember like that hit me like a bus reading that. And I realized that I was like kind of betraying myself. And the more that I thought it through, I was like, this conversation that I, was going to have with my dad and just let him know that I really feel called in a different direction. I had a lot of fear, like that he was going to be really upset and really disappointed and sort of blindsided. And, but then I think also that was kind of my ego talking. But then I think deep down, I was like, I know that my family loves me and they want me to be happy and they want me to feel fulfilled. So I really had to like gear up for that conversation. Donna, you and I talked about it, Donna, you really supported me in times when I felt like I didn't have faith in myself. You really held that faith for me and really kind of encouraged me, like, you can do this. And once I had the conversation, it was like, he was like, okay. Again, it goes back to like what I said earlier about how I dreamed up this whole drama that I was, he was going to be so upset and my family was going to be so upset and everything. And I think I really just laid my heart out and said, this is just something that I really feel called to do. And I really want to feel fulfilled. And, I don't want you to think that I'm not grateful for the opportunity. And, and because really like, if one has the opportunity to work in a family business and they're passionate about that, whatever that is, like that is such a gift, like, wow. If your like passion is in alignment with working with your family and that's something that you want, great. For me, it was like, I just felt so called to psychology and it didn't really make sense, on paper. It would have probably made more sense for me to stick with the family business. But yeah, it was like, I had to kind of get comfortable with, I may disappoint people, and it's okay for me to like honor my own wishes and dreams.
Can we go a little bit deeper into disappointment?
Sure.
So fill in the blanks. If I disappoint someone, it means that.
If I disappoint, it means that like I'm bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I'm bad, what does that mean?
If I'm bad, then like I should feel ashamed.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was definitely operating, like that thought process was definitely operating under the surface.
Yeah. Do you find that it operates today anywhere in your life?
Sometimes it still comes in a little, but I think I've really updated my belief system that, it's okay to nurture yourself and to make choices for your life that are good for you or in alignment. And I think also like part of being human is you are going to disappoint people. It's kind of impossible not to, because if you said, okay, I'm never going to disappoint anyone, then you would just be like a shapeshifter everywhere you go, just doing whatever you knew that person wanted you to do to be happy. You would totally like lose yourself. So I think like I also realized it's just not possible if you want to be an authentic person.
Would you also say that everyone is responsible for their own disappointment?
Yeah.
Right? Like I get to interpret the world around me and I get to determine whether I'm going to feel disappointed or not based on what's happening with the world around me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really tied into like your expectations around a situation too. Like if you have a certain desire or an expectation for how you want something to go, and then it doesn't go that way, yeah, that sets you up for disappointment. And I think like one of the most important spiritual psychology principles is like that acceptance of what is happening. And that has really helped me just in every area of my life, of just, trying to be a little bit more neutral, a little bit more flexible, trying to, realize that not everything is going to go the way I want it, and not be so stuck in my position all the time.
Love this, Katie. And it's okay to feel disappointed, right? Mm-hmm. It's okay for us to feel disappointed, because perhaps that disappointment is giving us the privilege of feeling, right? Mm-hmm. We want to label disappointment as a bad thing, and we don't want to go there, and we don't want to do it because it doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. And it's part of being human, right? It's part of this experience that we get to have here in these earth suits. And I just think this is such an important message and reminder for everyone. Like, yeah, sometimes we're going to be disappointed. Mm-hmm. And we can experience that disappointment. We can let that be what it is. And then we can move on.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, like with our work together, that you've encouraged me to do is really acknowledge what's going on for me. And also, like normalizing it, that I'm a human and I'm going to feel the full spectrum of emotions. And I think prior to working with you, I was always trying to escape it or talk myself out of feeling a certain way, or you shouldn't feel like this because of X, Y, and Z, instead of like, now I'm a lot better at really being like, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now, and kind of feeling it, and then moving on and like moving forward.
Yeah. And what you're bringing forward is such an important point, because, and I know you've heard me say this 1,000 times, what we resist persists. So it's like, if I'm unwilling to experience that disappointment, or I'm unwilling to sort of move myself through the discomfort or the fear, then it's like a little kid, like tugging on your coat, like, ma, 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 like, pay attention to me, see me, see me, see me. But when we are willing to like face whatever it is, mm-hmm. Oh my God, that is such a gift. It's not only a gift to ourselves, but then it becomes a gift to the world, just like I was talking about in the beginning, because now we're like able to make a contribution, and we're able to show up in a different way, in a way that we're in our power, where we're in our joy, and we're bringing forward our unique expression, our unique gifts. Mm-hmm. But when we're just like paralyzed by the stone wall of the resistance, mm-hmm. I mean, you know it.
I know it. Yeah. Because there's definitely a stubborn side of my personality, where I've, definitely stayed stagnant and kind of, like you said, the little kid tugging, like, yeah. And you have to kind of acknowledge what's going on and, allow yourself to experience what you're experiencing.
All right, let me see here. So you have proven that you can feel the fear and do it anyway. You're living proof that breaking free from where you were, enrolling in this counseling program, and maintaining a track record of straight A's across the board to be able to pursue your dreams. What is the next edge that your soul is calling you towards, that maybe your ego is still like trying to put on the brakes? Like what's next for you that you're being called towards? Because as you know, right, and as we've talked about so many times, this isn't linear. We don't just like make it through the fear and then we're like, yeah, man, I'm done, I'm out. We keep going. So there's always like the next thing and the next thing.
So true. So true.
What's up for you right now as far as fear and what you're moving yourself through?
Yes. Well, so I started my practicum internship in May. So basically what that is, it's part of the counseling graduate program where you start seeing clients and you're supervised. And, you also have a university supervisor. So, they're kind of helping guide you through the process and all of that. So one thing that I've had to confront is like being a beginner at something and, some of my insecurities and my performance, like worried about how I performed in a session and sort of, then like there's certain times where I'm like, oh, like, that wasn't my best work. And so really, I think my next learning curve, definitely for the next few years as I like become a fully trained, fully licensed counselor, is really being gentle with myself. And by that, I mean like accepting where I am in the learning process and letting go of this like perfection. I have a little bit of like this perfectionist standard in my mind of wanting to do everything perfect. And, I've realized that if I were to continue with that, like that's going to really set me up for a lot of pain because no one's perfect. Not even the most seasoned professionals are perfect. And especially someone who's just learning a whole new career, a whole new profession. So yeah, I think that's my next challenge, is really being kind to myself and supporting myself and being my own cheerleader and not like kind of not being so self-critical in the learning process.
Katie, what do you think the gifts are to your clients, the people that you will go on to serve? What are the gifts that they will receive as a result of you doing just that?
I think that will translate in my work to help them not be so critical of themselves and to give themselves credit for like the positive steps they are taking and to have more reasonable expectations that, goals take time and work. And, it took me years to decide I'm going to pursue psychology. I mean, I was 18 when I wanted to do the psychology program and I enrolled. Yeah, it took me over like maybe 12 years or something to I'm not saying it's going to take everyone that much time, but I think, just being like teaching self-compassion and being forgiving with yourself and just being your own supporter and really being self-critical really isn't helpful. So I think that I'm hoping that those sort of things that I've been through will translate into my work.
May I reflect something that I'm aware of?
Sure.
You are so smart and you're so clever and you're so funny. And when you're like relaxed and in the moment and you're being yourself, you always come up with like the way of seeing something that is so fantastic that if you're feeling constrained in any way, like that doesn't naturally come forward. And you have this really gorgeous expression, like the truth of who you are, that is so playful and so warm and so compassionate and fun. And I know because I've had the privilege and honor of sharing so much intimate time with you. But I know when I see you like really relaxed and really being yourself, it's magic. Like you have a magic that comes forward. And so I just wanted to reflect that to you.
Thank you, Donna. That's so nice. Yeah, I was thinking, I'm not used to like the spotlight being on me, so I feel like I'm a little shy today. And I think that's such a good point. Like, even I've noticed in my some of my more recent sessions with clients where, I've been counseling now for a few months, and I'm getting more comfortable and more willing to kind of bring my own like essence into the session. And those are the sessions where like I'm on fire and we're really getting somewhere. And comparing that to like some of my earlier sessions I had to record, like, I was nervous, and that like constricts not only like your creativity or my creativity, it would kind of constrict that because I was so focused on trying to be this like version of a counselor that I thought I should be. It constricts the creativity. And it also constricts like, you kind of me being able to bring my personality a little bit and my own uniqueness as a counselor into it. So I think, relaxing and really kind of tuning in and that's where the magic happens.
Yes. Katie, thank you so much for being with us today and for your authentic and vulnerable share, and just sharing how you have moved yourself through so much fear in pursuit of your dreams. And I just really acknowledge like every single step that you've taken. Like we've barely covered the surface of the number of things that you have moved yourself through, but I just really honor your process and who you are and the way that you keep showing up for your dreams. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's really been an honor, and I hope that, some of what I've gone through can help others. And, I'm still every day, learning to face my fear, and the journey's never done, but I just keep on showing up is what I tell myself. So
amazing. Well, we're going to do the celebration of love's alchemy right now. And so please stay with us, because the celebration of love's alchemy is a gentle pause to recognize the extraordinary magic woven through our everyday lives. And every episode, we take a moment of loving celebration for something that might seem ordinary or contrary at first glance, but it holds within it a spark of brilliance as we celebrate and remind ourselves why we chose to take a body and to come here to human land. From the sweetness of a juicy orange to the blessing of an emotional trigger, we turn our attention to the less obvious causes for celebration and the little things that we might take for granted. So through our loving appreciation and gratitude, we uplift ourselves and the vibration with the power of love as we send ripples of good juju out and across the planet. As alchemists of upliftment, we're turning the seemingly mundane into marbles of magnificence as we see the whole human experience as the alchemy to our wisdom. So I'll give you one guess of where we're going to bring our love today. Any ideas? Wait for it. Fear. We're going to bring our love to the fear. And that really is how we transcend it, how we transmute it, how we dissolve it, is we bring our love to it. So our fear is this devoted protector. That's what it's trying to do. It is protecting us from the unknown, from things that it imagines will happen. So we just honor that. We honor the fear as our devoted protector who is trying to keep us safe. And through love, we transform that into conscious discernment. And you have certainly done that. You have transformed your fear into conscious discernment again and again, really pulling apart the lies that we tell ourselves and being able to identify like what the real risk looks like, what it doesn't, and being willing to take action, maybe without thinking things through too hard, to just sort of see what happens, where the chip's going to land. Fear is also a beautiful indicator of our growth. It's a reliable sign that tells us we're on the edge of what we have known, right? Like we're butting up against what was familiar and charting ourselves into a territory of something that is new. And when we're entering into something that is new, there's always that trepidation, right? Because the ego wants to have that feeling of safety. It wants to know its way around. It wants to feel like it has all of the answers. And it likes safety and surety. So anytime we're coming up against that edge, that fear flag is going to get sent up. So we can just say, my God, I must be on the brink of growth. I must be on the edge of an evolution. Fear is really that invitation to surface the lies that we tell ourselves. And again, for our viewers, you can visit being-courageous.com and you can download the 7 steps of how to move through fear. I want you to join me right back here for our next episode, number 18, which will be taking place on October 7th. We're going to be talking with soul hacker Danielle Pashko about how our soul level healing actually can transform our physical health. And this is definitely a conversation that I'm super excited to have with her because I have undergone a massive physical transformation as I have done more soul work here in Costa Rica. So we are just going to close our space. Again, Katie, thank you so much for being here, sending you so much love and light. And I appreciate you and so grateful to have the opportunity to work with you for these many years. Love you.
Thank you, Donna. I love you. Thank you for letting me be here. It was really fun.
It's my honor.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, we just want to close our eyes. We're going to send the light up ahead to any fear that anyone might be working with or working through at this time, just bringing in the power of our presence, the power of our higher self, the power of our inner knowing to dissolve and transmute anything that no longer serves us. We are now closing all energetic lines of communication between any of us, closing all open portals, gateways, channels, agreements, and lines of communication between any of us. This is Spiritual Ambition. I am Donna Bond. We are closing this sacred space in love, with love, for love, by love, as love. Thank you for being here.